All right, let's get into it. Today, we're cracking open The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stanier. It's a book with a pretty bold promise to help you work less hard but have way more impact. Sounds good, right? And right at the start, you get this quote from Brené Brown, which just hits the nail on the head. Think about it. Our default setting is to give advice, to have the answer. But what if the real power, the real courage, lies in just asking a good question?
If you're leading a team, I bet this feels incredibly familiar. That constant pressure. Your team is looking at you, the deadlines are piling up, and you feel like you have to be the one with all the solutions. Well, it turns out that exact pressure, it's a trap.
Yeah, the book actually calls this the modern manager's trap. It's the set of invisible, vicious cycles that keep you insanely busy, but not actually effective. Let's see if any of these sound like your typical Tuesday.
And look, this isn't a new thing. A study from Daniel Goleman ages ago found that the #1 reason leaders don't coach is they feel like they just don't have the time. And let's be real, in our world of nonstop notifications and back-to-back meetings, that feeling is probably 1,000 times worse now.
So here's how the trap works. It's made of 3 cycles that just feed into each other. First, you solve everyone's problems, which makes your team totally dependent on you. You become the bottleneck. That leads straight to overwhelm, because now you're trying to do your job and their job. And finally, that overwhelm leads to disconnection. You're so deep in the weeds, you lose sight of the work that actually matters. Sound familiar? Okay, but here's the good news. There is a way out. And it's not about working harder or adding some complicated new system to your plate. It's about changing one simple, fundamental behavior.
And there it is. That's the secret sauce. Just talk a little less and ask a little more. You shift from being the chief problem solver to being the chief curiosity officer. It sounds so simple, but this one little change can transform absolutely everything.
So you've got these 2 paths, right? The old way, giving advice. It feels good, it feels useful, you're in control. But it's a short-term high that leads to long-term burnout for you and dependency for them. The new way, asking questions, it feels a bit slower at first, sure, but it builds a team that can solve its own problems. That's how you get to a place where you work less and everybody, including you, achieves more. The book gives our old habit this brilliant, memorable name, the advice monster. You know this monster. It's that voice in your head that the second someone mentions a problem just wants to leap in with, here's what you should do. It doesn't even wait for them to finish their sentence. Your first job is learning how to tame that monster. Okay, so we get it. Ask more questions, tame the advice monster. But how? How do you actually do that when the urge to give advice is so strong? Well, it's not about willpower. It's about having a simple formula to build a brand new habit. You know, just telling yourself I'm going to be more curious is way too vague. It'll never stick. To overwrite a deeply ingrained habit like giving advice, you need an equally clear and powerful new routine to replace it. And the book gives us this amazing tool, the new habit formula. It's just 3 simple parts. First, you identify the trigger. When does your advice monster usually show up? Maybe it's when someone on my team says I'm stuck. Then you name the old habit, instead of immediately giving them the answer. And finally, you define the tiny new action. I will ask, what's on your mind? See? Suddenly it's not this vague idea anymore. It's a concrete, actionable plan. Now for the really fun part. The book actually has 7 essential questions, which are all fantastic. But for now, we're going to focus on just the first 3. Think of these as your starter pack for building a real coaching habit. So this is where you start. It's so simple, so open. Instead of all the usual small talk or diving into a rigid agenda, you just open the floor and invite them to talk about what's actually important to them, right now. The reason this question works so well is because it hits this perfect sweet spot. It's open enough to be inviting, but it's also focused enough to get right to the point. It cuts through all the fluff and immediately tells the other person, hey, I trust you, you know what's important, let's start there.
Okay, now for what the author calls the best coaching question in the world. Seriously, it's so simple it feels like a cheat code for having better conversations. It's the AWE question, which stands for and what else?
This little question is magical for a few reasons. 1, it generates more options, and the first idea is almost never the best one. 2, it keeps your advice monster in its cage because you have to stay curious to ask it. And 3, it often helps the other person dig just a little deeper and realize they already knew the answer themselves.
So after you've kicked things off and you've asked And what else a couple of times? You need to get to the heart of the matter. You need to find the real problem. And that's where the focus question comes in.
The genius of this question is its precision. See, the words real challenge force everyone to slow down and stop focusing on the first surface-level problem. But the two most important words in the whole sentence are for you. That little phrase makes it personal. It shifts the conversation from complaining about other people or the situation to focusing on what they can do. It's the difference between just fixing a problem and actually helping someone grow.
Okay, that was a lot, I know. We covered the trap managers fall into, the simple way out, the formula for building a new habit, and 3 incredibly powerful questions. So, what now?
Here's the most important takeaway of all. Do not try to become a master coach overnight. That's not the point. The goal is to just start, to build a tiny habit. So just pick one question, pick one person, and try it out. Just once. That's it. That's how it begins.
I love this quote from Jonas Salk, the guy who developed the polio vaccine. It's such a great reminder that the answer isn't really the prize. The real magic, the real breakthrough, happens when you find the right question to ask.
And that really brings us to the end. The whole point here wasn't just to dump information on you, but to give you a tool you can actually use. So I'll leave you with this. Of the 3 questions we just talked about, which one will you ask today?